I'm doing great. Thank you. So, for those who are watching, I'm here with ShaVodka Nowacki. She is our director of North Carolina High Fidelity Wraparound program here at Thompson. ShaVodka is awesome. I've had several conversations with her. Today, we are speaking about the importance of mental health therapy and what that means for clients as well as people who work with Thompson. I know you know a lot about the Shavadka, so we're gonna just jump right in, okay?
Okay, great.
So, from your perspective, working with Thompson and your role, what is mental health therapy and why is that important?
So, mental health guides us through life. It can also stop us through life. So, when you're talking about mental health, you're talking about the way you think and therefore becomes the way you feel, act, and react. So, mental health has always been a really big thing, but I will say it's been paramount in the times of COVID. Because us being social beings and the many changes around what's going on, mental health therapy is imperative so that we can continue to be healthy and feed our emotional needs as well as our physical needs. Um, so, Mental health therapy is definitely making sure that our thoughts are clear, that we get the special needs that we have because we all have different personalities and different needs. And this is going to help keep you on the track of peace and tranquility and getting essentially services that you or your children might need.
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing. And I know that in our society, in our American society, there is a changing, shifting focus on mental health in a way that it hasn't been in the past. And many people who, may have needs from a mental health, um, wellness perspective may not have realized that before, but now it's like becoming more and more okay to get the help that is needed, whether it's an adult or a child. So when you talk about like therapy, how can a person's mental health be improved? We hear the concept of therapy, but like, how can that improve your mental health?
Well, gosh, there's so many ways. So when you in terms of like mental health, you can get some assistance in terms of couples. If you're having problems with your child, understanding their behaviors, understanding their struggles, there's therapy for that. We have something at Thompson called PCIT, Parent-Child Interactive Therapy. Very important program that's going to help you understand a child who has extreme tempers, who's struggling to understand, and you're struggling to provide that direction. It's a really cool interactive way to be able to not only understand your child's needs, but you have a therapist who is speaking to you in a microphone now and giving you tailored, structured education to work with your child and decrease those same behaviors so you can maintain it at home, right? That's a really great way that you can do it. We have sand tray therapy where you do all kinds of things. There's a 2-minute attachment therapy. There's so many options that therapy can really help support you as a parent or a couple's therapy to figure out what your needs are. If you as a parent or you as a caretaker need some assistance, we have that therapy as well. One of the cool things about my program, the WRAP program, is we come in and we work with the family. And when we work with that family, we advocate and empower that family to seek the needs that they have. Right. So if we come into a family and the child has a mental health diagnosis, let's just say, and they say the child needs therapy, we're going to help them get therapy. That's our goal, is to find the family's needs based on their terms, right? And then saying, okay, what do you need? And then finding that perfect plan in their eyes, right? So if we come in and mom says, little Johnny absolutely needs a therapist, and I do too, we're going to help them do that. And
Mhm.
we're going to say, what kind of therapy do you think that they need? And then we're going to help them tailor towards that type of therapy. For instance, we've helped with ABA therapy, which is more specific to children with autism. We've done PCIT with a child who has extreme behaviors that they're not able to tailor. There are various other programs. Is it day treatment that they need to be successful in school? That's also a type of therapy and assistance to maintain those behaviors in the educational system. So there's so many options in terms of therapy. There's trauma-focused therapy if you've overgone some kind of a traumatic event that can really help people along the way. Um,
Let me stop you for a minute, Shavadka, because you are dropping all kinds of pearls and knowledge here. Maybe for those who like for a first timer who is like they hear therapy, but they've never really considered it. Maybe this might be the first time that they're realizing, like, wow, there's a lot of different types of therapy and treatments out there. And the main thing I just want to kind of highlight, especially for somebody who's maybe not done it and like they're like, I'm not even sure which one to go for, is
Hmm.
that you know, as like I would, Thompson is like the humble expert who you would engage, and you don't have to know what type of therapy you need. All you need to know is that you might need therapy, and then Thompson, or organizations like Thompson will work with you in identifying your specific issues or your child's specific issues, and then work with you consultatively to put together that plan that really addresses the specifics of your situational. And I think that's one of the things. A lot of the programs you're mentioning are very situational, and maybe the child has this type of need or the teen has this type of need, and the therapy addresses that. Am I right?
You are right. We do what we call a clinical comprehensive assessment. And what that will do is really get down to what you need as a person, right? And then we'll say, okay, what's the program that might be best based on that clinician's expertise? Because she will know about the many services or find out. And
Mhm.
at Thompson, we have a really, really great group of therapists who will be able to kind of say, what might this family need? And if they don't know, we find out.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I know that some people have is, it's like a trigger situation for what causes that need for therapy in the first place. There
Mhm.
could be some past trauma. Maybe something has happened. Maybe something that we don't even want to talk about, but something has happened that creates that. Do our programs kind of address those type of situations? Would that be like the main, you know, the main like the main reason why we're doing these programs in the first place is to address that, or maybe you could speak to that for us.
So I wouldn't say it was a main focus, but it's definitely always a focus, if that makes sense. Everyone here at Thompson is trauma focused. We're trauma trained. So kind of like I was speaking before, when you do that assessment, you'll definitely be asked if there's any kind of traumatic event. We may not say traumatic event, but we're going to be asking about traumatic events. We also do some assessments that will measure those traumatic events, even if you don't at that time understand that it was trauma, because sometimes people don't know what trauma, they just have a feeling. So that assessment is part of understanding what might be going on. And then if you need, and if we're working from that standpoint, we can understand how to help you and what type of therapy might be a best fit.
That is really good, ShaVodka. Thank you for sharing that, because I know that like one of the reasons why people, and I felt like this before. I mean, I lost my dad back in 2008, and I was like, nobody's going to understand because nobody's going to take the time to get to understand. But you know, I think the purpose, part like you mentioned, like one of the things that is part of this is that we are taking the time to try to get to understand on, the client's terms and and their timeline. And I would hope that that's probably, because I know that there be people out there who have questions about like the length, the duration of like the services, and like is this gonna, like how long is it gonna take? And from a flip side, will this be long enough?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
those are some things I know that people would be thinking about. Thank you for taking some time to share with us. Is there anything maybe that I missed? I mean, I know that there's a lot of different programs throughout
Mhm.
Thompson. Are there any programs that come to mind that maybe you know somebody watching this might really identify with? And any
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
So I would love to talk a little bit about my program. My program specifically is the North Carolina High Fidelity Wraparound program. And what we do is we work with youth and families. So we're a very different program in that. When we work with someone, we work with the youth and a family. And we work with that family to figure out what they need based on their terms and move through a process that we call the wraparound process. It's basically four phases we do. We do an engagement phase, a planning phase, an implementation phase, and a transitioning phase. So what that means is, the long and short of it is, we go in and we figure out what that family needs based on their needs and wants, and then we help them build the skills to do it themselves. So we're teaching people how to fish. So what that means is, let's just say we get a family, and I have a family who really needs therapy. I'm going to help connect them to therapy. Then they're going
Okay.
to learn how to connect themselves to any more therapy processes and help them find natural supports in the community. So when they have those same situations, they have someone to call. And so we help families learn how to reach resources and get the supports that they need. And that is probably the most powerful thing for many, many parents who have children with severe mental health illnesses and don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. We not only help them get there, but we help them get there for life because life is situational. Sometimes mental health is great and we got things on target, and sometimes things fall apart. You lose a family member. You have a kid who needs an IEP. We're teaching them how to do that.
I think that that is great because that analogy that you mentioned of teaching, a person how to fish is incredibly empowering. It's
Mhm.
incredibly empowering, and I think that empowerment in and of itself is therapeutic. You know
It
what
is.
I'm saying?
Yes. There is
So,
power in knowing that you have a choice. And one of our most used principles is the family always has the voice and choice in everything they
absolutely.
do. And I'll close with a great example, if you don't mind. I
Sure.
was on Facebook of all places, and I heard someone posted about this child who had an IEP meeting, and that's an individual education plan for those who may not know, because we don't use acronyms in rap, but and how disempowering they felt and how challenging they felt. And I said, that is why I do what I do. We are empowering people to say that they have a voice, that this is their child. We're advocating for them and alongside them so they can say, no, I have a voice and I have a choice, and my child might need this. And then we're helping them connect to those mental health and educational needs that are going to support that child ongoing. So
I
it's
mean,
just,
that's
it's
that's
extremely
that's great.
powerful. Yeah.
If I can ask one question, just for anybody who may have heard that information that you put about your program, like how does that work from like a referral trigger? Like how do people get involved with that program if they're interested?
You can do a basic inquiry online on the Thompson website, or you could just give our front office a call and say, hey, I'm interested in wraparound. I think this might be something that's going to help my family. If you're a parent who says, hey, my kid needs help, but I think I need help too, and I need help on how to help them, we are the program for you. We have really great peer-to-peer interactions. So when I say peer-to-peer, when you're meeting with RAP and you're a parent who's going through a struggle with a child who has mental illness, guess what? You have a family support partner who has lived or is living that same thing. It is so wonderful to have that peer-to-peer experience because they know where you've been and they know where you can get to. So they're going to help guide you through that process. And we do the same thing for the youth. If the youth is 14 years or older, they have a youth support partner who can say, yes, I know it's hard to ask for help. I know DJJ is on your back, but I did it and I'm going to teach you the skills to make it through as well. And that may be seeking that mental health help, and it's okay.
ShaVodka, I have to say thank you so much because you are a wealth of knowledge and you're a great resource for Thompson. You're a fantastic advocate, not only for rap, not only for Thompson, but also just for mental health. And I do mean this. I mean, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. And thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Because there's a lot of people out there who they really, we all are still learning about mental
Mhm,
health and
mhm.
what we have to offer here. So I just want to say thank you. I'll let you run.
Thank
I will
you.
talk with you later, but thank you so much. All right. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too.